Hello and welcome everyone into another Amplitude Studio stream. My name is Jordan and I will be your host today. I am joined by two very special individuals, so welcome them both in. We're joined by Balthazar
hey.
and Isabel. Sorry, my brain went blank for a moment there. You know, you put a camera on me and my brain just freezes sometimes. But anyways, thank you all so much for being here today. We have a very special stream planned. We've got a lot of topics that we're going to cover, a lot of interesting details that we want to go over, some things we want to discuss as designers and community, and but most of all, we're just excited for the expansion. We're excited that you're excited for the expansion, and we hope that everybody's getting hyped for November 9th. It's getting close.
Getting close. Yeah.
Time just keeps on flying, doesn't it?
Well, it does that.
Yeah. I think I'm getting old. I must be getting old because time just keeps on going faster and faster. Oh, goodness. Well, how is everybody doing today? Let's catch up with chat real quick here before we dive into conversations. Olinra, Nefarious, we got a bunch of familiar names here in the chat. Arm Devil, Kaiju, Waycott. How are we doing? Good to see both of our stellar community team here in the chat. Moderators Dark Arrow and Cat of Nine Tails, or as you probably know them, Sergio and Stephanie. They're great. Thank you all for being here, keeping us safe with your green swords of justice over here on Twitch. As well, our friends over on YouTube, we got Hofmeister TL, we got Joe, Vladimirovich. Wow, that's a tough one. I kind of just steamrolled through it.
I would have no idea how to pronounce it, I must say.
Vladimirovich. I think that's how it's pronounced. What's up? Welcome, Duo, Bucket, Toadfish, Klim. I see. We need some moderation over there on YouTube. Oh, classic. Losing humankind on Stadia is sad. Yeah. That is definitely a topic that we will talk more about in the future. As you can probably understand, it's a little bit complicated from the corporate perspective, so we appreciate your patience with that situation, and we'll have more information for you soon regarding that. But anyways, so for those of you that don't know, those of you that just tuned into the stream, today we are going to be going over some of the game design elements and having a small discussion about some of them. We'll be talking about the things that are coming in the free update that's coming alongside Together We Rule, as well as the paid features. And these things are really going to be changing up a lot of elements of the game, a lot of how the game plays out. I think this is obviously this is the biggest kind of update that we've had to Humankind, and I think a lot of these features are long awaited by the community, things that they've been asking for. We've heard your cries, we know. So this is kind of the fulfillment of a lot of hard work by the part of the teams, and as well of anticipation from the community. So chat, if you have any questions as we're going through the different topics, please put your questions in the chat. You can @ Amplitude Studios over on YouTube. I'm pretty sure you can @ Humankind, and that will be the best way to get our attention so that we can get your question on the screen. We'll have a short Q&A at the end, so it's not going to be a lot of time that we'll have left. We have a lot of things that we're trying to pack into this stream, so we're going to do our best to get to all your questions. So I can't promise it, but put it in there and we'll get to it if we have time. But first off, for those of you that may not know Isabel and Balthazar, could we just get a little bit of introductory time here?
Yeah, sure.
Isabel, would you like to start?
I was about to say the boss first, but...
Yeah. Either way, we're not particular.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. So I'm Balthazar Roger. I am a lead designer on Humankind since the game launched back in 2021. And I've been accompanying the development of the game through latest updates and DLCs, working with Isabel, but also I wanted to shout out Noah. I want to mention also Armand, Ulysse and Mylis. who are not on stream today, but who are working actually right now. So they actually kudos to them. So yeah, Isabelle.
Yeah, so I'm Isabelle Almond. I'm a game designer. I've been at 4 years at Amplitude. I started working on Humankind before its release. I'm one of the grannies who, spent quite some time working on this game.
OG. We could say OG.
Original grannies.
Yeah, original grandma. I love Balthazar. You all maybe don't know this, but Balthazar is so quick with his jokes. I remember our stream. We did it. It's been months now,
Yes.
but my gosh, I was laughing so hard. So funny. Sorry, you were saying you've been working on Humankind for a long time.
Yeah, I'm super glad that some ideas we had that were just rough ideas that couldn't make it in the original game. Well, now we can make an expansion with them. And that's so nice.
Yeah. I mean, as a designer, you must look at these projects kind of like your child in a way. A game child, maybe not a real child, but, it's got to be a sort of emotional experience to see these things that you've worked so many hours come into fruition. But also maybe a scary experience as, the community members, gamers, are going to have opinions about things that you've worked hard on. So it's got to be an interesting experience. As somebody who doesn't actually code or make art or music or anything like that, I can't really understand how that must feel like.
Technically, we don't code and make music or
well,
make art either. So
I was trying to mention more like designer type roles, but
no. So yes, in a way, games. I wouldn't call them like our child. At least not at Amplitude. We don't really see the games that way.
Okay, yeah.
They're more of a collective creation. Even obviously we always have games together, but it's also like how we worked in the studio. So we really try to get everyone's input, and sometimes stuff that's really cool, as Isabelle was saying, like when you were doing pre-production of the game originally, and you go, oh, this would be awesome, and then for reasons you need to just put it to the side, and you kind of grieve it, and you go, okay, we'll probably never do it then. But that was actually something that that came back because, well, people also asked for it, and you guys are still here for the life of Humankind. So you've been accompanying us all this time through all these updates, and this gives us the energy to go, okay, you know what? You remember this idea that we had like a bunch of years ago that we cut for this or this reason? Now I think now we can like make it work.
Yeah, you guys have no idea how glad it feels like when we had this idea, but it couldn't make it in the original game, and then we see people asking for it or suggesting things that could work with it, and we're like, yes.
It is a bit of validation. There's a bit of I told you so to no one in particular, maybe to producers, yes. But no. But there is this bit of, yes, we knew that was something that was actually interesting, and it wasn't something. I mean, we did have to cut it because it was like, okay, do we have this cool feature or do we have graphics? Okay, well,
Yeah.
we do need graphics.
There are constraints in production,
Yeah.
and things you can do and things you can't do.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But it is, yes, it is a kind of a good feeling to finally get these stuff that we've also. I mean, me for less time, but Isabelle has been. She knew about it for so long, like years talking about this, and then we started working on this right after we shipped actually Humankind. So designing first, and then obviously moving on to production, and then it was that moment of, oh, now we get to do this. All right, so it wasn't actually dead; it kind of came back.
Right. So, if there was a simple way that you could, well, Dr. Kane, we'll get to your question. If there was a simple way that you could explain to the community what it is you do for Humankind, like what are the things that they might have seen in the game or experienced in the game that you've had a direct hand with?
Like us, the game design team, or us?
You specifically,
Balthazar?
yeah.
Okay. Have you ever heard of different cultures and the fact that you can switch them?
Mm-hmm.
Or
I have.
I don't know, it's something called fame,
Okay.
maybe, or narrative events. That's
Yes.
another thing.
Yes, I think you Isabel, have like specific things in the game that you can point and go, that's all me.
And it's not all me.
No, but it is mostly you. And since I am the boss, it's like mostly small stuff. I got like, yeah, I personally did like that little thing, but I don't get to do personally most of the time. I get to make meetings that you don't see. I get to make Jira tickets that you don't see.
Something you do is basically you take every little bit that the game design prepare and you make sure that everything works together, everything's nice. So you can say you've done even a wider range of things than anyone did.
It's the kind of work that it's well done if nobody notices it, basically.
Yeah.
No, concretely, I really worked, for staffing reasons, I really worked hard on the Ibn Battuta balancing pass. So that was something that I did. It was a cool summer, so that was
Very
fun.
cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember that being a good one. I remember never being able to pronounce it though. I was like, Ibn Battuta. Awesome. Well, that's super cool. Well, thank you for introducing yourselves a little bit. We did have a question that showed up on screen, so maybe we can run that back. I believe it was Dr. Kane, one of our modders. Specifically for you, Isabel. What mechanic or system from the expansion pack are you most excited about?
Depends, actually. I may have two answers. One as a game designer and one as a player.
Okay.
So as a game designer, there is the embassy mechanic that I've been working on, and I'm like super curious. How will player use it? I'm sure player will use it in ways I never ever expected. That's usually how it works. But yeah, I just can't wait to see what you guys will make out of this mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And as a player, and more personally, let's just say I want to try to wage wars without declaring wars. Because I'm a pacifist, I hate when there is a war. But I also hate when people assume that because I don't want a war, I'm weak.
I see, yeah. I'm thinking back, I'm currently playing Endless Legend on stream on Tuesdays, and I feel like Cold War is just kind of the go-to, status of the different factions, and it's almost, I feel like maybe this expansion for Humankind is going to give a different light to that Cold War, maybe you're not just, not fighting,
Yep.
but you're actively trying to do non-war related things to affect their game, which really feels like a Cold War to me.
Yeah, that was one of the goals. Basically, I don't want to move forward in what we had planned to.
No, you're good.
Say. I don't want this to be like the guy started talking and then they spoke about a bunch of stuff.
If we jump the gun on something, it's fine.
Yeah. So, exactly what Isabel was saying was one of our actual goals with the whole work on this expansion is sometimes it's not like we don't like. Sometimes diplomacy is equated to pacifism, exactly. So oh no, it's going to be like poppies and rainbows, and we're all going to be friends and sing kumbaya. That's not actually what diplomacy is. It's a ruthless profession. Only people get really hurt, but emotionally.
Yeah. I think it'd be hard to be a diplomat.
It is. Yes.
I can't imagine being a politician or somebody who interacts in that kind of diplomatic space.
Well, I've met some, and the stuff you see in House of Cards and stuff like that, it's actually pretty close to real. Yeah.
Interesting.
And so one of the goals was to get this kind of actual stuff that you can do that doesn't go into explosive war yet, and you can do a bunch of stuff that we'll talk about later, but there's a whole range of things you can do to mess with the other without actively declaring war, but you will still get ahead and try to.
You're not killing people, but you're showing people that they should not mess with you.
Right.
Sending a strong message. Don't mess with me. I love it. Cool. All right, so let's move on. We have some of the features that we're going to talk about. First are going to be from the free update. And we have a little thematic that we can show for that. So basically, for the free update, let's split it into the actual mechanics that we're going to have. Agents is not something that's going to be... sorry.
Stealth.
Stealth.
Yes.
The stealthed units that aren't agents, but are still stealth, that is going to be... we're calling it a rework, I suppose.
It is a total overhaul, basically.
Yeah, an overhaul of the stealth mechanic. That will be included in the free update. So maybe we can start off with that a little bit. There's going to be some interesting mechanics that might be unfamiliar for people. So I feel like it'd be a good opportunity for you both to maybe help explain a little bit how this is actually going to work. If you have a unit that is capable of being concealed, what happens when you start entering enemy territories with those units?
Right.
Well, at first, nothing happens because they don't see you. And if they don't see you, well, they don't know.
They don't know.
So they won't be able to see your unit enter them at all.
So basically, if I mean, let's like try to compare it with what's in the game right now.
Okay.
Stealth is something that not much people use actually because it's not working right?
Yeah.
The way it works is that you have stealth units which are stealth until they enter an invisible range that cities have, which is called the detection range. And at that point, they are automatically discovered. So it's either all or nothing. And you, as the infiltrator, you don't actually know where you're going to get like caught or not. And from the infiltratee part, it's like, yeah, okay, I built up my detection. I'm okay. It's basic.
It's fairly basic. You just want to have more detection buildings.
So it's really like not a good place in terms of like how stealth units work. So we also had like for the expansions we said, okay, do we add like for the DLC, sorry, do we add like stealth units? And we were like, they're not like stealth is not really in a good place right now. Let's just wait a little. And so we kind of collected all of that like pent up regrets basically, and really put it to work in working for the stealth rework. The first reason that we actually did it is to support the agents, which are one of the paid features. But we wanted to really like include this like part that was really important into actually the base game, so that the current existing stealth units also get like a lift and become actually more relevant in gameplay.
Like basically for the current status of the stealth mechanic, it was pretty limited due to, well, not unlimited time. And this way we can actually make it the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, but maybe one of the ways it's supposed to be.
One of the ways.
Hopefully this will be a good way for people to really get into this more stealthy gameplay, because I think a lot of people do want to feel like there are more ways to play Humankind, especially if, you know, there aren't any clear paths to victory over an opponent. And maybe using a little bit more strategy or a little bit more, you know, big brain moments. Hopefully this is a tool that people can use to make that happen. So there are a couple of terms involved in the new stealth mechanic. Let's go over those terms for everybody. So we have a stealth rating.
Okay, yes. So I mean, in terms of actual like terms that you will see on the screen, I don't know if we have the images again, but it's okay. So you will mostly have like one number that says your stealth bar. It's called stealth. Everything's kind of called stealth because it works. I mean, we designers like to say, okay, this is the number that raises the other number, so they will be called different. But then when we get to actually localizing this and putting good, nice terms on it, we realize it's all the same thing. So you have the bar. That's your basically resistance to stealth. So it's if you have a bigger number here, which is the 15 that you see here.
You can kind of think of it as like a health bar.
It's kind of a health bar, which will be depleted if you are somewhere where you are being detected each turn by that number. So we try to do it really straightforward. You kind of get like a preview of how much time you can stay concealed with that. And then the other number that's kind of important is how fast your spy regains cover once it has been depleted. So if you leave the hostile territory, then you will start recovering at a rate that's...
Here it's +3.
In this case, in the image, it's +3, so it's kind of like the stealth regeneration.
And certain units regenerate stealth faster than others, depending on their advancement in technology, or
yes, as soon as they start advancing, and in like for the stealth content in the core game, it's really related to how advanced they are in the tech tree. So at first you will only have one unit, but then as maybe you know, in like modern era, you have like 3 ground units, one that's default for everyone, then you have 2 boats, and then naval units, and then you have aerial stealth and stuff. So it really gets diversified as soon as you go.
Okay, cool.
So the other number that I was mentioning is the detection, and that's like for the other side of the equation. Like when you get, when you for instance, you are on the other side and you are being infiltrated by someone. So what happens? You try to build up your, first you build it up your range of detection. Now you build up actually your capacity for detecting stuff in one territory. So the different things that you will have in a territory, either districts, infrastructures, different armies, if you have planes as well that are patrolling, all those add up with a special rule, which is only the best source is picked for the addition. And they actually give this number, which is detection for the territory, which will apply to all like concealed units within the territory, from your enemies, from your friends, from everyone. So
and you'll be able to see the detection level of each territory specifically?
Yes.
Is that going to be,
yes,
that'll be visually seen? Okay, cool.
That's another thing we're adding. Actually, we're adding the, you've already discussed the rework for the HUD, right?
The A2 what?
The HUD, the HUD.
Oh, yeah.
The interface.
We've seen screenshots of it. We haven't gone in depth about the specific changes.
So
yet.
one of the new features that will be specific to stealth, at least, is the intelligent view. So there's a little button that will be on the bottom, and by clicking that, you will see actually the game will change to being focused only on stuff that's either stealthy or detection or stuff that is also in the expansion pack. And that will give you an overview of, okay, this territory is kind of weak. I have one stealth unit here, which is about to be detected. You have a list of all the hidden units that you have. So we hope that gives you a good overview of what's happening in your empire. And then someone enters your territory while being concealed, sorry, you get like a notice saying, okay, we are detecting something in this place. And so you can actually grab your armies and start looking for it in like sensitive places before you get ambushed or attacked, which we can talk about later.
Cool. Yeah. No, that's it seems interesting to be able to get another kind of like I don't know, I think about them like Samus like lenses. You know, in the old like Samus games, or I guess on the GameCube, you could choose like different like visors to have. That's kind of how I think about the different screens in Humankind. It's like, okay, now I'm looking at things in terms of influence, or in terms of religion, or trade, or whatever. So there'll be a stealth visor, let's say. Cool.
Stealth visor.
Nice. Can we get that? Can we coin that? See, Nefarious knows exactly what I'm talking about. That man's played Metroid Prime. Oh, goodness. All right, I love it. Let's talk more about third-party reinforcements. Something that people have wanted for a long time is having more ways to work together. And although this isn't going to be a true, co-op battle mechanic, talk to us about how this is going to affect team play.
As you mentioned, one like the first aspiration that we had, and this actually came from us from a long time ago, was okay. What if battles, but really multiplayer, multi-side? This was a good a good intention, and it's one of those that actually, if you think about it, it's not like super what you want. We already have the problem that battles are kind of lengthy, especially when many people, many units are present, etc. And actually adding someone else that we have to wait for would have made that problem much worse. So we went at it from another angle. We said, okay, what you actually want is, in some cases, there are two cases actually. The first is you have your ally who is fighting someone, and you also want to fight. They're in a bad position. You want to just help him, give him
Reinforcements.
Give him your units. In other games, you could have just given him the units, but then they have to pay the upkeep. They have a deal with them, and etc. And so in our case, we chose actually to go with, okay, you can actually just tell them to reinforce like you do with your own, but for them. So it becomes actually, for the duration of the battle, one of their own units. And then when the battle is over, and if someone's still alive, then they will come back.
Like, for instance, you two are fighting to know which team is best. And because I completely agree with Balthazar that the game design team is the best, I will lend him some troops.
Right.
So Balthazar will still be able to control my troops to tell you that we are the best.
Right. So this is limited to people that are allied, or is this anybody?
No, it's currently limited to people who are allies.
Okay, so this is a bonus if you have that sort of relationship built up already.
We tried to actually look into, okay, maybe you can like reinforce anyone, and it was too crafty. I mean, it was too confusing.
Okay.
Sometimes you could reinforce someone, you had to, if the battle was not clear because there was like two people who you didn't like, and you wanted to give troops to one.
and edge cases.
And yeah, but then it's also the case, okay, you give me troops, I will specifically use them as meat shields to harm you then later. So that was a bit of also a complication that's on top of the current decision of, do I enter this battle or not? If you are giving units to someone you don't actually really trust, are you and you won't get a good feeling out of that. It's just like sending them to their death, basically.
Right. I saw that we had a question about stealth.
Yeah.
Let's quickly answer that before we move on here. Are uncovered stealth units free game to attack, or are they still tied down by treaties like alliances and NAP?
Right. So if actually a stealth unit becomes uncovered on your own territory, you can attack them with no repercussions. So like full strength of the hammer, and if it's something, even your ally, you won't get any like bad mouth from that.
Okay.
The person will have been caught in a bad situation, and you will be able to really.
Right. They shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Yeah. Additionally,
they don't.
Yeah. Well, while they are in that situation and while they are concealed, which is something important, they can't really initiate aggression themselves. So they will actually need to like get out of there, because if not, they will be in trouble. But obviously, you can also decide yourself, if you're attacking someone, to start an aggressive action, which will reveal your units as well.
Yeah. We can talk a little bit more about the ambush mechanic maybe a little bit later.
Yes.
But yeah, good question. But yeah, so we were talking about the third-party reinforcement. I'm curious, is the war support, let's say you lend your units to your ally, and they're in a war, I'm assuming the war support for units that die or that are killed is it only affects the person using the units, right?
Yes.
So you're not going to have like some war support change.
No.
Okay.
The worst thing that could happen to you is that you lose your units, basically.
Okay.
There are two cases. Maybe one if the battle is a skirmish in neutral territory, you don't actually need to declare war on the other party as well. However, if the battle covers their territory, then at that point we'll ask you to actually declare war, at least, because we need you to have the right as war gives you might makes right, basically, to move your units into the other's territory. So that's one of the limits that as well that we have. So in some cases, you may actually choose to reinforce, and we'll give you a message saying you will.
Also need
this
to
is the
declare
declaration
war.
of war. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So yeah, because you can be allied with somebody but not actually be at war with the person that they're at war with.
Yeah.
So this is essentially an acceptance that you're part of this too.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is something that we wanted to get. You have allies currently, and there's not much you can do if like you can send them the please join my war against this person. And maybe they're not ready for that. As Isabel was saying, maybe she's a pacifist and she knows I'm like her buffer towards some other more aggressive person.
Like, as long as your empire is here,
Yeah.
you are not attacking me.
Yes, so I really, this is something that I can really see, like people who don't want to really get involved themselves into battle, really like try to help their allies with concrete like troops and stuff.
I can see ways that this could play out in real life.
Yes.
Even.
And there's a second situation which was really like not very fun, is when you got your units caught by another battle that was on top of them. So yes, that happens. So you are like moving your units. Maybe there's like heavy troop movements in a territory, and then two people attack each other, and then everyone gets frozen. So if you are ally with one of them, you can actually. Okay, my troops are like being covered by this battle. You will actually join them right now to try to push the battle into your favor and
Interesting.
actually shift it. So
you can get your troops out of there.
yeah, and we
They
also
survive.
fixed. Yeah, we kind of worked around a bit on the free update as well. When it's not third-party reinforcement, but it's also like basic. You get your troops below a battle for some reason. We also reworked the flow for you to be able to do that.
Okay. We have another question from Amund. What if you are allied with both parties that are currently at war? Can you choose who to side with?
Yes.
The only way to do that is to say, okay, I'm not allied with you anymore.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
So you need to be able to attack one of the sides for you to be able to actually join. So again, we don't plan for this to be an instrument for total betrayals.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we pared it down and we forced it only for alliances, because it could make you feel too salty, like having a battle that's important to you and then someone who's your ally going, yes, I'm going to give you the troops, and then they flip it and they give it to the other.
There's already enough natural wonders that are salt-based in this game. Don't need to add any more of that. How many are there? There's like 3 salt deserts or something.
There are many salt deserts. Yes.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But so we did try to keep the rules of when you can like do a third-party join and when you can't really clear, so that you also, if maybe you're fighting an alliance, you know if like there's a chance that the others will join as well. Or not.
Right. Seems like you've thought this through a lot. The various circumstances that might happen.
Well,
and
that's what the community is helping us. I mean, we are actually really naive people when we start, at least, and then we really like our way to play. We go, oh, this is nice. And then we actually learn a lot about a game in a very quick. In a very short
Painless
time.
way?
Yes.
trust me, I get you there. I'm constantly educated on stream by the lovely members of our community who know how to play the game a little bit better than I do. It's tough. Honestly, like, I was playing the 100 years... No, sorry, not the 100 year. The... what is it called? The scenario that's like just really hard that Stephanie created to torment us all. Against all odds. That's what it's called. Let's see, Dark Arrow knows, yeah. My goodness, is it... I mean, granted, you're up against like units that are like a lot more powerful than you, but I struggle. I struggled really hard in those battles. And we were actually, me and Stephanie were talking about how, you know, this challenge would be so much different post-expansion. Like, you know, the way that you have to play it right now is very like, okay, like, either you're some humankind god player and you can just beat up the AI, or you have to just lose the war, get vassalized, and then like try and like do the catch-up game.
Do a catch-up.
But like, there's so many other options that you could go with, you know.
Well, actually,
In a month.
no, there's something that's interesting. For instance, stealth between allies is not automatic. So you actually need to sign. We added a treaty on the alliance state, where you actually need to decide. Okay, I will share my stealth units and vision with you.
Because otherwise, I may have planted like 10 stealth units just behind his capital, and he has no idea.
Yes, so
backstab him.
So, and it also works with vassals and lieges. So they don't get a chance of having that treaty. So you will never be able to fully trust either your liege or your vassal.
Right.
With stealth. I mean, there could be like stuff going on behind your back.
The subterfuge.
That's kind of the point. Yes.
I love it. Honestly, the whole stealth rework is just very exciting for me, because I've tried to use the stealth units in the past. I got destroyed because there was essentially like only one place that I could land on this beach, and it just happened to be where they could see me.
Yes.
And so I never really got to use them as effectively as I had desired. So I'm very pumped for this. It's going to be good. Awesome. Thank you very much for all the things. Is there anything else that we want to talk about with the free update?
We forgot to talk about ambushes.
Ambushes, yes. So let's say you have a stealthed unit, a concealed unit. I keep on saying stealthed. Stealthed isn't a real word, but it makes sense in English. It's the beauty of English. You don't have to actually speak it correctly. Have people understand you. But yeah, so let's say you're walking along and you just bump into a pack of commandos hiding in the jungle.
Good luck.
Yeah, what happens? Because this is an interesting mechanic where you've walked into an invisible unit.
So it all started from a problem, an edge case that we needed to fix. So there's like, okay, I don't know they're there. The game has a rule where you can't have two armies on the same spot. So basically, we had to solve that somehow.
Because you can try and path over them, because for you, it looks like they're not there, so you could path straight up into them.
Yeah. And then what felt the best, at least in terms of like the fantasy of also being, for some reason you want to be like building some kind of ambush, and in most like usually you need to initiate the attack yourself. So that's okay, but you actually need to take an act of aggression. Maybe you're not like at the best spot. You need to act fast. But what we found is that actually to solve our problem where you can't have an army that works on the other, we tried to create this. We created this ambush battle mechanic to go in to unsolve that situation basically, or some way or another. So when one army meets with the stealth or concealed army that you had there, you get a choice. Actually, the army that ran into you can't retreat. For instance, you can retreat. So if you retreat and you exit the battle, something will have happened, but no blood will have been shed, and you have a chance to regain, to flee and regain your stealth if you got caught, basically. But if that was your plan, so you planted it on a choke point in the map, or you already knew that they weren't going to go there because maybe there are some cases where you can bait someone with, I'm infiltrating over here, and then you place another unit before, for instance, so it gets surprised. Well, you can actually make a battle in which even the other party ran into you, you have the first round. Mm-hmm. And during the first round, you have a combat strength advantage. Only during your first arrows coming out from the forest.
The first volley.
And then you have an advantage, and then you're on your own, basically. So
And the first advantage is pretty strong?
It is already strong, yes. But
well, I think it's good though. I mean, if you're just waltzing around, willy-nilly or something like that, I feel like if you set up a trap, there should be a trap advantage. I already think that the ability to, not retreat is pretty strong, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this works because I know especially if you have the terrain set to steep, there are a lot of really good choke points.
Yes.
There's a lot of places that you have to go through to get to a whole nother section of the map. I remember one of the playthroughs that we did here on stream, we lost a war straight up because we couldn't get up these stupid hills because there was these just little passageways. We toned down the elevation in the future games, but I think with an ambush mechanic that could be a really interesting way to overwhelm an opponent, an unsuspecting opponent. Maybe you don't know how many units they have.
It also can be used for defense as well. So
Yeah.
you can just place your stealth unit right inside your borders when someone declares war to you, and then they went, oh, they don't have any units there, and then, surprise, we were all sneaky.
Cool. I like it. Cool. Are there any other things with the free update? Obviously, there will be a lot of bug fixes, minor changes, tweaks.
Yes. Oh, I almost forgot about the independent peoples.
Yes, let's talk about the independent people.
Sorry.
Thank you. Keeping us on track.
No, it's a pretty big update. I was thinking about all the smaller stuff, and obviously we are reworking as well the independent peoples in the game. So again, the main reason why we wanted to do this is because there's not like a mechanic that relies on them on the expansion, but it's actually the game is better if they are there, and it's better for everyone if we make them better for everyone, basically.
Yeah, so the changes to the independent people will have effects in the free update, but they
well.
will also have effects in the expansion, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Because the minor civilizations are going to play a little bit of a bigger role in the way that things happen. Your relationship with them will matter a bit more for that. But as far as just the free update goes, the way that you interact with these minor civilizations is going to change a lot different from what it is currently, which is a money or influence. I like to call it like a bribe system. So could you maybe talk a little bit more how that's going to work in the new update?
I'll talk about it quickly, and then we can maybe go into details if there are questions. So we are actually keeping the same names as well, so you will be able to interact with them either through bribe, through money, or influence. But what we are changing is, instead of just doing sums of money to boost your bar, we are taking everyone's patronage efforts and putting them together. And so now, for instance, if you want to assimilate them, you really need to work on getting, being the majority, patron, and not just, okay, there are two people whom I might go with. It's really a tug of war, where people try to, bribe and praise and buy stuff and really, interact with them as much as possible. So the main economical difference that we'll have is, instead of, punching a button and making your bar go faster, we're actually adding a slider where you can choose how much you want to influence them, and that will actually become a turn that's at a cost per turn. So that will be deducted every turn while you are interacting with them, basically.
Okay.
And you don't want to blow up your budget, but you still, for some of them, want to be their best buddy.
Yes. And another thing that we saw is that people who had big, big lumps of influence or money at one point of the game just went on a spending spree to get ahead everywhere and just chilled. This gives if you see that someone is getting ahead, you can try to outspend them, and this will at least stop their progress. And then within the actual independent peoples, we also, before you could just assimilate, and that was it. And you could buy stuff, and you could hire mercenaries. So we took those capabilities and we added some sort of treaties that you can now sign with them. So they don't get a say, they can't really say no, but you have to pay some influence to at least get them to agree. And this will allow you to also get other benefits. So you can get some science collaboration, you can try to get like trade, so you can make some money back from what you're spending in bribing them, for instance. And the last thing that we added is, in addition to assimilate when you get to the maximum like patronage level, you can also now try to, well, you can actually make them a puppet state. So it's like a, so they will take your color, but you don't have to manage them actually. So they don't become a city, they don't spend, you don't spend a city cap number for them, but you can actually get all the benefits, get mercenaries and resources from them, science bonus, gold bonus, influence, etc. They will become your color, so they will be aligned with you. They will also, that will also have some effects on the expansion pack for the Congress of Humankind feature that we'll see later. But in that regard, you can actually have like some little city that will actually work for you, giving you bonuses and still growing, and they will not disappear if you do that. They will stay in the game for as long as you want to keep them, basically.
So to the opponents, will they look like that's owned by you?
They will have your color now. Yes.
Okay, so they won't be able to really tell that it's not just you.
It's like when an occupied city gets your color. So the banner is your color, but then some gray that tells you that this was a.
It'll be noticeable to know that it's a city-state.
They are with you, but they are not you.
Okay, very interesting. I'm so curious how a lot of this is just going to play out, you know? Because I think in a lot of ways, the independent people were just like, ooh, free city. Ooh, a piece of candy, you know? Like, but now it's going to be like a decision on how you want to play it. How do you want their role to exist in, you know, where their position and all that's going to play in effect. And
to answer Nefarious Bread, actually the puppets, if someone starts like really challenging your patronage, you lose the puppet status. So if they manage to make your patronage fall to a certain amount of the total one, you will actually lose that, and you have to regain it somehow or reduce the influence of the other.
Could you decide, hey, like it's been fun having them as a puppet, but
yes,
I want to control them
at one
now.
point you can just like sign the other treaty and then go full. Okay, you're mine.
Interesting. I like it. Oof. Decisions. I love having more decisions to make. Honestly, it's kind of overwhelming sometimes when I'm playing and streaming Humankind because I'm trying to keep up with chat, trying to play the game as well. But hopefully the people at home will be able to handle it. That's so good. Awesome. Cool. Huge update. Huge amount of reworks, changes. I'm very excited for everybody that either isn't able to get the expansion, that they're still going to have a huge new update to play around with, which would be awesome. So
we think it's cool as well.
Cool, awesome. I love this game. We love you, Rudik. Who knows? Is this going to make people panic assimilate as soon as someone starts competing, though? I think that you have to wager whether it's worth it, you know? If it pushes you over your city cap. I mean, I've won wars and then been like, I can't handle this many cities, what have I done? Like, you know, I think there's a bit of strategy in, are you ready to handle that? Can you assimilate and then merge it, or is your stability not going to be able to handle that? You know, there's a lot of factors.
There is another thing, like let's say it's an independent city that's on another continent. Okay,
isolated.
But if I want to get it, will I be able to protect it if someone goes and attacks me? Maybe not that well.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, hey, once you all get your hands on these things, these are the type of things that you can write about on games together. You know, these are obviously we've done testing, we've had internal testing, and then you know we've also worked with the VIP program or the counselor program, is what we're calling it these days. And you know, but we can only do so much, and so you know, once this gets in your hands, this is your opportunity to go to games together, make a forum, say, hey, let's have a discussion about the minor civilizations and let's talk about what we like, what we don't like, what we think could be improved. And then that's where we, as the developers, can come in and join that conversation, games together, and hopefully in the future. And this is actually a question that maybe we could go over later a bit more, but you know, these new changes, they're not final, you know. Things that we've updated in the past, we've changed, and things that we are bringing into the game now still could use some refining potentially in the future. So, you know, keep that in mind, that you know, there's always the opportunity to continue to work on features.
The game evolves.
Yes. What we can't do is like do a quick turnaround of, okay, let's just like do a 180 on this in a week.
Yeah.
That's not really how we work.
That's a very good point. I do think that sometimes some of the suggestions, I read a lot of YouTube comments, a lot of tweets, a lot of comments on games together and things like that. And I think maybe sometimes community members could have unrealistic expectations about what can and can't be achieved in a certain amount of time. You know, not necessarily that like we can't do great things, and we have, but that, you know, like you said, we spend a lot of time working on a feature, and then, you know, somebody says, I actually don't like that feature at all, you know, like, it's probably not going to immediately come out of the game or something like that. So.
Yes, I mean, one of the, like, core energies that we're trying to put out is that nothing is set in stone, actually, but stone takes the time to
chisel.
To chisel out. So we are always re-evaluating all parts of the game that we get comments on, basically. Whether it be like core mechanics, stuff about damage, battles, etc. Big mechanics, we talked about. Well, we had the war support thing. Sorry.
You're good. Do you need some more water?
About the stealth, for instance, we had multiple suggestions from the forums, from, well, so many sources. I won't be able to list them, actually, so I want to try.
We need the credits to roll down the screen with all the people that have helped us with ideas.
But it can be giving you ideas that, wait a second, that's actually a good idea, or maybe, yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but now you players are confirming that it is a good idea. Like, it helps, really,
Yes.
it does.
It does. So, again, we're, as we always say on the live, we're here like for a long time, and we try to always be listening. So in this case, we really think for the expansion and for the update that we really listened a lot during the whole time before, and so the things that we're bringing now have been maturing, you know, for at least more than a year.
Like a fine aged wine.
So I hope
Very
it doesn't
French.
feel half-baked or like, oh, they didn't think about this really easy thing to think about when it gets into your hands. But also, if it turns out that, A, it wasn't actually that good, or like now we played it like with it like for a month and we think there are things that should change, well, actually there's a big chance that they will. So basically, yeah.
Yeah, we had, I think another big one for the community is in regards to the modding tools, because especially with new features and things like that, obviously the community wants to mess with it. You know, we have a lot of talented modders out there that are anxious to have either new tools, more tools, things like that. Is there anything that we can maybe talk about in regards to that?
Some things.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Not too much, but just a little.
So for people who are modding, maybe you can see how writing new texts and using new symbols and writing tooltips, lore descriptions, etc. Well, everything that's localization related, I don't know, maybe writing a new translation, I don't know. It used to be a nightmare. Right now, for players and for modders, it is a nightmare. Smart people found out ways to do it, but with the expansion, we will be giving support to actually make it easier, like directly doable.
Okay.
And
And that,
if you also want to, for instance, add a language that we're not supporting, you will be able to do that as well.
Yeah.
So
Very
this is
cool.
one of the, I mean, we're always working on modding as well, on expanding our capabilities, etc. And what we chose to focus on right now is giving you more control with what you write in your mods and how you describe things and etc.
so you could make a mod where you just change around all the words, like, and you can make it say fun things potentially.
We missed Talk Like a Pirate date for release, but it could have been
Pirate
like
localization. Oh my gosh.
pirate localization for all of humankind.
But yeah, if modders want to do it, they will be able to.
Pig Latin localization. That's super cool. Okay.
And just because I'm a nerd about the narrative events, you will have so many more tools to like create new narrative events. Technically wise, we had huge improvements, huge options added. I had a lot of fun
You
with
can
them.
talk about it because people will get that in the modding tools as well.
The world events, or
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about new narrative events.
So the narrative events themselves will be in the expansion, but with the modding tools you will be able to make some. Basically, it's an event that will trigger at the same time for every player.
So this is a global thing.
Yeah. You can have rewards specific for a specific player. You can propose choices that can be visible to everyone.
Is this like kind of like in Endless Legend, where it's like you can have a competitive quest?
There is
Sort of?
no quest
Well,
things.
not a quest necessarily, but
If you want to go into the specific, the narrative part of the game has no memory, so
Okay.
it cannot remember what the objective was.
right. Okay, that makes sense.
It's more like right now.
Okay.
Right now, there is, I don't know, I'm just imagining thing. It's global warming and water is rising. What is your answer? And it's something that's global, like it's happening to
Everyone at the same
everyone
time.
at the same time, and anyone can have an answer. It can be a personal answer, it can be an answer that has an impact on everyone. And for the technical aspect, for the modders, it means you can actually check things from other empires. You can have events, you can create narrative events based on your own situation. That's the case currently, but also the situation of the other players. And that's a huge technical change.
Right. Yeah. The possibilities are endless. No, that's amazing. I mean, me and Stephanie have talked about it on stream for a while now, but we really need to do a stream where we go into the modding tools on stream and we kind of talk about it, because I don't know about you all, but as a more casual type gamer, I haven't touched the modding tools personally. I've used mods. I've used a lot of mods, but I've never actually tried to make one myself. And I think, the bigger our modding community is, I mean, the more, variations, the more creativity that there is. So I think it'd be a good idea. I know that we have a couple of people that are very interested in that, but if more people are interested in maybe having some sort of like a basic tutorial on how to use the modding tool, something that we do that here on our channel, I mean, put some thumbs up in the chat, put some like yeah in the chat, and maybe if we see a lot of that, we'll work on doing that, because I think it could be an interesting stream to see, especially maybe after the expansion is released, the type of funny things that we could get up into. So
Yeah, and I think either of us or maybe other designers would love to participate as well.
Yeah, definitely. We have some plans for the future of our streaming as far as equipment goes as well, which should maybe allow us to have a bit more flexibility in regards to having guests on the stream as well. So we're working on making these streams even better. So awesome. Let's move on to the expansion. Together We Rule. This is going to be a couple of different sections. We're going to go over leverage, agents, diplomatic affinity, new cultures, inter-empire events, and the Congress of Humankind. So there are various sections of this. So if you're just joining us, settle in, get ready. If you've been here for a while, maybe get something to drink, because there's a lot of really cool things that we're going to cover here in the next little bit. But let's get started with the first one. Well, I guess let's introduce the expansion. How did we decide on the elements, the mechanics that are specifically being worked in here? You mentioned a little bit earlier, Balthazar, that this is something that has been maturing over time. It's been in a barrel, an oaken barrel, aging, gaining potency.
So, on the perspective of how we started developing this is, it's also based on the view that we were adding a very unique diplomacy system that wasn't really hadn't really been seen in other games. It's based on or maybe on other like competitors, but not at the level of involvement that we have. And so we felt that to really like make it shine, we really needed to first understand if the reception was good, because there was also the chance that people hated it. And so this started like with the open devs that we did before release. We started like kind of testing the water. There was one that had diplomacy enabled, and we got your feedback about grievances and doing actions and declaring war and treaties and stuff. But then the main thing that we saw that was missing is you had your diplomacy was one-to-one, basically. So you only had diplomacy with someone, and then you had to turn around and talk to somebody else, and the discussion that you had with that person didn't really exist, apart from some very exotic maybe grievances that are three-sided. Mm-hmm. So when you complain that someone did someone to someone else.
Right. Get in a war with my person.
So those were like the first days, but then we really went and we felt that we were missing this sense of community globally in terms of what you could do in the world. So that's one of the things that we decided to try to build for the expansion. This is not to say that the current diplomacy options are inadequate or too limited, but for some players who do really like going more into in-depth and doing the sort of situation that we talked about with Isabel, we felt that there were like maybe some stuff that was missing and that could be added, basically. Both to provide context and aspirations, and both also concrete tools for you to do stuff, basically.
Yeah. So were there any challenges in bringing these things to fruition? Because obviously, like you said, a lot of these things maybe haven't been done before in this way. Were there certain elements that were tough to actually make? I don't know. I think one of the biggest things for me as a gamer is I want things to be fun. And some of the mechanics that are involved in a diplomacy thing, I know I've seen in the community people are a little worried, like, is this actually going to be fun? Are there things that are just going to make war impossible? Like, is it all about peace? Like, I know the whole peace is always an option thing has been pretty big in the marketing, at least the ads and stuff. But like, that's got to be a challenge. Could you maybe talk about some of the things that were hard or difficult that you overcame as this has been built over the past?
I think one of the challenges is because we want to do something that's, not present in other games. We don't have examples of things that work or things that don't work. So we had to try something, test it. Sometimes it works, and that's nice. and sometimes, let's just say, we learn something. So it was not an instant, okay, this would work like that and like that. No, no.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
it's hard to pioneer things. Obviously, the 4X genre in general is fairly niche already, and so you know.
The other thing that we tried to get right is exactly because we also like played other like games that had diplomacy expansions and they added stuff, and it kind of felt like, okay, but I don't really like the way this is going. And that was one of the things that we wanted to avoid. I mean, each sorry, you shouldn't actually be told you can't do this because it's forbidden right now. It should always be things where you go, okay, this is harder now, and there may be consequences that weren't there before. And try to add nuance over that. So we will probably discuss that more in detail when we go over embassies and the Congress of Humankind. But oh, sorry.
You're totally fine.
Yeah. It should be better now.
You're good.
So basically, it's the always trying to find ways that you don't feel that you'd be better off without the feature.
Right.
You see, for instance, when we have effects that apply to everyone, we try to go either before going into the like everyone or this kind of resource is forbidden for everyone. We kind of go, okay, everyone gets this bonus, and you can go, that bonus, I don't like that bonus. I want that bonus. But at least that bonus doesn't actively prevent you from playing a way that you wanted to play. It boosts something that's of no value to you. So you can actually.
So it's not about bullying people into playing the way that the other people want to play, but more about providing a maybe a moderating force that you can either choose to agree with or disagree with.
That is one of the that is one of the intentions, and as we did for the stealth, which is kind of like going into the same direction of, why is this happening to me? I didn't want this to happen to me. Why did nobody tell me this was going to happen?
Right.
Like, oh, you're being suddenly you have like 20 spies in your territory, and oh, you're dead.
Oh no!
Surprise! You had no forewarning. You had like no thing you could do against that. You had no action that you could take. No one to complain to, basically. But so we really tried to not get into that bad situation. We try to give you forewarning when you are being infiltrated. We also give you, okay, like when you have the spy, we don't give you, okay, this action has a 50% chance of happening. It will happen. It will take time. Do you have the time for that?
We don't want any part of the game to feel unfair.
Okay.
Like, if something bad happens, it has a reason. You knew about it beforehand, and now it happens, and you can exactly see why, how, when. And maybe it was worth it because you gained something else. Maybe it was because you did something wrong, like lost a battle.
You made a lot of people angry for some reason.
Sounds like every single one of our multiplayer games that I've played. Somehow I always get into a fight with Sergio. I was just trying to be playful, and usually I end up in debt with missing a couple of cities or something. But yeah, no, that's gonna be interesting. I could just get the Congress of Humankind to, slap him on the wrist for being so aggressive next time.
That could work. Yeah.
Stop being such a warmonger, Sergio.
But you would need to be in agreement with everyone else.
Right. I'll get them on my side.
But through the embassies, you can also bully him.
Right.
Even though you have no army. If you had the spies, you can still bully him.
Right, so let's talk about the new units. So we have the new mechanic, which is leverage, the little thing that looks like a pawn from chess. And then we also have the embassies. So embassies are something that you can build the same way you'd build a holy site as a shared project. So it's something that you... from the there's some speculation in the community about how expensive these embassies are going to be to build. We saw 1,400 industry or something like that.
I'll be honest, I was still doing the math and the balancing for the last build.
Some of the numbers you may have seen may not have been final numbers.
I can confirm they are not final numbers.
Okay, you hear that, Jumbo Pixel? If you're rewatching this VOD back.
But yeah, the objective with how long they take to be built is, okay, they should take quite some time, but not ages.
Right.
Losing your embassy should be something that means something, because you won't build it in the next turn. But it shouldn't take 30 turns in normal speed to build it.
One other thing that we actually, so maybe it's not like super clear in the videos, but me building my embassy is a choice that I can take, and if I build it and nobody else has it at the moment, that instantly gives me actually an advantage over everyone, because I can do stuff that they can't do. I have the leverage actions at my disposal.
The famous Sergio bullying I was talking about.
Yeah.
You need your embassy.
So it's something that if you invest in it like early on, it actually will give you some advantage. If you're in like the first eras and you go, okay, I see where players want to go with this match, kind of. If you invest in that, so that's why we didn't make it like free or cheap. If you actually choose to invest and you put your cities to build that, you will actually have stuff that the people maybe don't have yet. And the pressure is now on them, because you're doing this stuff to them with the leverage that you collect, and they can't fight back. They can't answer.
So I think in that screen about the leverage or the embassy actions, there's kick people out of your territory, kick like the military units out of your territory. There's a bunch of different options that you can spend your leverage on, and there were a couple that were locked.
Yes.
Which implies to me that maybe certain ones are unlocked as you progress through the eras.
Exactly.
Okay.
Whenever you enter a new era, you get access to another action.
So there's then one per era. One action per era? Is that kind of how it works?
Sort of. We didn't really build it like that.
There it is,
but they are in a
we
sort
have
of
placate.
There are 5 actions, because you have specific features linked to the Congress that appears instead of adding one to the actions.
Okay, cool.
So basically, what we did is we work with Benoit, who you've already met.
Last week he was here, remember?
To really like get a feel of, okay, did people really do this diplomatically at this point of history?
Does it make sense?
Right.
The progression of what type of actions you'd be taking at which point in the game.
Yes, because you wouldn't apply, as you see at the bottom, economic sanctions maybe in early eras, because everyone was kind of already struggling economically. So there's not like examples of people going, no, ban. Maybe there are. I'm sure there are. But it wasn't so widespread of like going, no goods from Troy will be traded while we finish this war. But it's something that you can start seeing like from era 5 and era 6 onwards. So that's something that starts becoming really one of the stronger like things that you can do. Really harm the others.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, could we talk about maybe the effects that some of these are going to have? Since I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, sure.
If people have seen what they're actually going to do. I'm assuming the placate one is one of the ones that was shown, because that's the one that reduces the war support that they have against you. So this could have multiple implications, such as you want their war support to go down so you can force them to surrender faster, or if somebody's trying to build war support against you to start a war, you can keep them at bay from starting wars.
Or if you want to start a war against them, you can also start using this action, so you know you can win it pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in
It can
effect,
be
it creates a gap.
offensive.
It widens the gap between
Yeah.
yours and their
It can
war
be
support.
used for offensive reasons, for defensive reasons. It's a tool.
And there's nothing they can do about this. It just happens.
I mean,
You
if
spend the
they
leverage.
build the embassy, you're limited to doing it once per turn.
Yeah.
But the only action that they have kind of is building their own embassy and making sure if they have the leverage that your war support also gets down. So it's kind of like
Right.
tit for tat in that same regard that we wanted to build.
And obviously, leverage is going to be a limited resource, and this is not something
Yeah.
that you're going to be like,
Yeah.
lower
No,
their
no,
war
definitely
support.
not.
Both
You're
people
going
are at
to-
0 war
You
support.
need to
Like,
think about it. Yeah, at least at the beginning, you're really going to think about it.
I think that's the coolest thing is when, you know, like some of these games that I've gotten into where I've actually had a lot of room to expand, you really get to that point where like you're like, oh my gosh, I only have 100 influence to spend this turn, and I want to attach a territory, but I also want to like start a new outpost, but I also need to get the civic so I can make it cheaper to, and there's just so many things to spend it on. What type of things can we spend leverage on?
So for leverage, you can either use it on leverage actions on the column on the left of the screen, but hoarding it, keeping it, is also useful for the Congress of Humankind.
So maybe it's not something that you want to start holding right away. Maybe you start using it, but then as you like begin entering the medieval age or etc., you know that the Congress is going to be founded soon. You can start holding it to have
An advantage in,
Head
that,
start,
in those
yes.
in those
Ye-
decisions.
You don't want to end up at 0 leverage whenever there's a vote, because it will not go well for you.
I mean, unless you just go with the flow, maybe.
Yeah.
Unless you're easygoing.
Yeah.
So the little leverage
icon.
resources that you can pick up on the map. Are those going to be like the curiosities, like the wild berries, where there's different amounts of leverage that come from each one? Is it going to be kind of random, like you get nuts, berries, or things like that? Or
Well, it is kind of it is the same system.
okay,
So the rules of where it spawns, those are not random actually.
perfect. This is actually one of the important questions that the community has had, because they're like, is it like pearls? The pearls from Endless Legend kind of spawn during the winter, and it's just
Yeah.
random all over the map.
No, not here.
Okay, so how do you tell where these leverages are going to spawn?
So-
10, that's what that one said, 10
Yeah,
leverage.
That one's 10. There's 20 and 30 payoff. 30 is like a big haul of leverage.
Extremely rare.
Okay.
So the rule that underlies this is, as we were mentioning this idea of community and stuff that happens between more than 2 empires. So actually, not all empires see the same leverage action, curiosities, intel they're called, on the map. So they appear on territories where one empire has a grievance. So the grievance, as you know, they are localized. They have a place where the bad thing happened, and it could be your capital. And actually, that location on that territory is where an intel will spawn for you.
So is it territory based, or
It
is
is,
it
and then
localized within the territory?
Within the territory, it chooses a random spot to avoid people farming it because they saw where it happened. Or if like you have grievances that target the capital, then you would have all the things on the main plaza.
All the intel would just spawn
So
on the capital.
if a territory has a grievance somewhere that's not between you and the other empire, that's targeting that territory, then an intel will spawn there.
Okay, so you could pick up other people's...
You actually have to pick up other people's
Basically, intel
dirty laundry.
is dirt
Right.
you get on other people.
You're like, ooh, did you see he just burned down their
And
resource collector? Or,
And the leverage actions are like, okay, I saw you burnt this resource collector. I won't say a thing, but just turn down with the war support. Really? Okay, thank you.
Conversely, you can also like, if you have the stones to actually say no to one of your grievances, that will also give you some amount of leverage. So, let's say you attack me, and I have
Okay.
like, you attack me. I go, it's okay.
I would remember this.
So that one is, since you can actually like kind of get it to generate stuff for you, it's actually only 5.
Right. That's not. It doesn't turn on to something in the map. It's
It doesn't,
just an
and
immediate
if you actually
leverage
if you
game.
remove it, it makes the intels disappear as well.
Oh.
So it's actually good. Like it's actually a way of, if you want to be spotless and having people not have stuff against you, you need to kind of like learn to be hygienic with your grievances. Either you turn it into a demand because it's something important, or you either like renounce it officially and then you let it slide. And if you stay in the in between, then stuff like will start like leaking out.
Right.
there.
So you're saying that maybe I'm not going to be able to keep on stealing territories that are next to my allies.
Well, you will.
They always forgive me for it because they think they're afraid of
You
me.
will, but as I was saying, there may be consequences. to
Right.
that, which are not like directly you will get a stick on the head, but you will start seeing, as I was mentioning, since grievances also tend to gravitate around places, around maybe capitals and cities who are like being disputed or stuff like that, then you will start seeing also the units that can collect these curiosities. Like you have the envoys, who you can see, and the agents, the spies that you can't see. They will start like swarming these areas.
Coming to farm the.
Right, so you kind of have like
leverage.
hotspots that appear over the course of a match,
Right.
depending on where the heat is, basically.
Right. So I think it's important to understand for the players then that there is a certain amount of randomness that is required so that it can't be exploited.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're trying to avoid an exploit here. If we had a what did you call it? Intel. If we had intel spawn on
Reliably on the spot.
the resource collector that somebody was burning down, then you'd know exactly where to go and you could just keep on farming it.
Yeah, or
right?
just plant someone there and prevent others from getting it as well.
We want to avoid exploits, but still be fair.
Right. Cool. I like it. I think that that's a beautiful way to make it, you know, related to the territory and what's going on in that region, but also not overpowered, not unbalanced.
We
or
try.
anything like that. I mean, obviously, like, you know, I'm sure our players will figure out something.
They always do.
But that's a problem for that day. So, cool. I like it. All right. Leverage in embassies, agents. Let's talk about the specific. Wow, that's a hard word to say. Specific agents. So we have, like you said, envoys. Envoys can pick up leverage. Anybody can make envoys.
Anybody can make it.
Anybody can make envoys, not just diplomatic
No.
affinities.
Anybody can make spies and spy masters and envoys.
What's the difference between spies and spy masters then?
Okay.
Better.
One is a master version
Yeah,
of a spy.
they are upgrade basically.
Okay, so like a later era.
As in the leverage actions, we wanted to include some aspect of progression, and at this point, it's also like when you start having more technical know-how and stuff, then your agents kind of get more actions, a wider range of actions, that stuff they can do. So we start off like with spies who are more into not getting noticed and not doing really aggressive stuff. So their actions, they can just plant vision either on cities or on armies.
Like a...
They can just, if it's an army, they can plant bug them or
Okay.
attach a crow that follows them, depending on the era or your imagination.
Right.
And so you will get for some turns vision, the vision of that army.
Even though
I
it
have-
moves away.
Right.
Yeah. So if you
Oh,
have-
it's localized to the units that you've bugged.
yeah. So if you have
Oh.
doubts about like, okay, is he going to use that army to attack me? Then you can
How long
track
does it
them.
last?
And it lasts.
Well, depends on the speed of the game,
It depends
obviously.
on the speed, but it's around five-ish turns.
Okay,
It's a
interesting.
small number.
The quote came to mind from Lord of the Rings, the Sauron has many spies with many eyes.
Yeah.
The freaking birds when they're like hiding in the bushes. Oh, I
You can
love
also
looking
do the
for
same thing inside a city. So, and then in that regard, you get like access to what are they building, their construction queue,
Right. Okay.
their
So you know if they're
yields.
building units
Right.
or if they're
What are
building
the-
infrastructure.
yeah.
or
And that also
something.
lasts if you sustain it. In that case, with a spy there, it just sets up like in one turn, and then you see it.
Okay.
And they also have stuff like to not get noticed that they can do is like at least some of the things they can do. They can try to siphon as well.
Yeah, I saw.
districts.
I think we were actually just watching the clip
There.
of it.
There.
What does it mean to siphon them? Because currently, the way that resources work in humankind is not that you have a quantity of that resource, but you have access to one of that resource.
Yes.
So what is the siphoning?
Well, you have
look
access to one of that resource.
Okay.
So the siphoning it, we were seeing it on a resource, but it works on all districts actually. What it does is, with a short setup time, your spy in this case starts giving you as well the same like best yield of that district.
Oh.
So if it's if you
Does
say
this work with luxurious versions?
it works with luxuries, it works with strategic
Sorry.
resources.
What is the special version of? the
No,
luxury?
it doesn't apply.
What is it called? Marvelous, magnificent.
It doesn't apply Marvel
Wondrous.
Wondrous, thank you.
extractor status to them. It just gives you access. Like, it's like,
Okay.
and the thing that's kind of weird, but we had to do it because if you suddenly saw that something was missing, you would start looking for it. Is that it actually creates a copy of that. It doesn't remove it from the other player.
Steal it.
So it's kind of like skimming off the top, basically.
Right.
Or copying, because you can also go to. I mean, imagine you have
Science
like-
district.
right a science district or an emblematic that's placed wonderfully at your enemy's city, and they're making a ton of science of that. You can like with your spy, you can go and get the yield of science that they are generating from that.
So, and what with the stealth health, you can stay there and steal their science for 4 turns, 5 turns.
As
Depending
long as
On
it
how
stays.
much they invest.
I mean, if they're not
in
investing in detection, then maybe you can stay there a long time.
it's
Yep.
free. It's free stuff.
It's free real estate.
Yeah.
But so then you could just bop out, regen your stealth,
And
come
come
back in and steal it again. Okay. So how does this look? I mean, this isn't part of the topics that we were going to talk about. But how does this fit with the micro macro elements in humankind? I know that that's definitely something that's on your mind. How much of this game do you have to be going in and microing everything, and how are spies and
Yeah.
things like that going to add to? I mean, it's obviously going to add to the micro.
Okay, obviously it's not free. I mean, it does add, but we did try at least for the spies 2 things to help mitigate that. The first one is that you actually get when you're doing one of these actions that okay, go here, start stealing stuff, and then at some point I'll take you out. You actually are notified just before you're run out. So
Okay.
when the stealth is about to run out and you can still escape, the game tells you your agent is about to be uncovered, and so
You don't have to check every turn.
right. You can forget him there, and then when you get the heads up, you go and save him. But the other thing that we're doing is there's actually a cap on the amount of agents, envoys, and spies in the game, which is linked to the amount of empires which are in the match. So this is mostly to first to prevent spamming. So I'm not like making with my bountiful industry. I'm not like just making infinite agents to just spam everyone and steal everyone's money or stuff.
There will be a similar to a soldier, a upkeep cost for having that.
They have they're expensive, not prohibitive in terms of upkeep, but they are like you notice them.
Okay.
Um,
Are they gonna have similar movement?
For the envoys, they will have even wider movements than the other units because first they can cross any territory.
They're like peacemaking units. They're like,
Yeah,
hey,
you
we're
don't-
just here to
two
like.
guys.
You don't stop
Join
them at the
you,
border.
hang
They
out.
come, them go.
But you can kill people's envoys, right?
You can kill them. They can't attack or do any aggressive.
They're not a
actions.
military unit.
But
But-
they can go through other territories,
Yes.
and when they are on roads,
They
they
go
go
faster as well,
extremely
yeah.
fast.
And
Excellent.
really to go into that aspect as well, like roads are being built. Envoys arrive like in first era. You unlock them with the wheel technology. Sorry. And so just to like go with this aspect of okay, there are roads now that connect countries and cities together, so envoys actually can take advantage.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so it brings up a lot of questions about grievances. So if I kill your envoy that's just hanging out in my territory, do I get a grievance? Or Nefarious is asking here, if you discover a neutral, can you have a neutral spy though? I feel like if you're stealthed in someone's
I mean-
territory, it's not very neutral.
I think it means it's not from an ally, it's
Yeah.
not from someone you're
At war
war
with.
with. It's just
Somebody's
Some-
perusing
yeah.
your merchandise.
New grievances are appearing, so just attacking and even not killing an envoy. I mean, even if we retreat, that's a grievance.
Right.
Like,
you
they
attacked
are
my
super
envoy. How
sensitive.
dare you? I was
How
just,
dare you? Raise
was just
hands.
there to-
No, but I didn't kill him. How dare you?
Yeah.
Basically. So that's for the envoys, and actually all stealth units, not only spies, if they get discovered, you get a grievance as well.
Like you had a stealth
You
unit
had a stealth
Yeah.
unit
in my territory without
yeah.
telling me.
Right.
what were they doing here?
Right. I'm
Care to
assuming that
explain?
if you have the alliance that you're sharing the location of stealth units with your ally and you bring a stealth unit into their territory,
No, in that case,
there's no
it's-
grievance,
it's-
right?
Yeah.
You're just like, oh yeah, you know.
Yeah, actually, in that case, you also share your detection between yourself. So you don't apply. Yeah, you don't hurt the spy with your own detection. It works to cover them actually.
Okay.
So it's like really like,
So you could pass through allies' territory undetected.
and you can regen at your allies. So it like the idea is really, if you get to
Having
that
an ally
point,
next to your
it's really like
enemy.
super aligned countries who are like together to the end because we
Right.
decide to share like stealth stuff.
Interesting. Cool stuff. We got another question from Rabzig. When they are discovered, they lose the unit, or can we capture them?
Civic.
That there was an idea at one point to actually give you the choice as an empire to decide what you want to do with the captured spies, and do you want to execute them or do you want to?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we didn't go with that sadly, but it was actually pretty fun because we also at one point considered maybe you can have him like a hostage. Or like decide to trade them for leverage and stuff like that. Ultimately, they get killed basically.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it was something that was cool, but it was kind of a rabbit hole that was a bit too deep for the corner case that it was basically.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, you kind of have to figure out what is it within the scope.
Yeah. I mean, and there was like really, it's also one of those situations where there's like one choice that's more fun than the other. And there was one choice where everything like kind of cool stuff happens. You were like imagining the bridge of spies and people exchanging prisoners. And then the other, the spy just dies.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. So it's kind of sad that we had to pick the less fun choice. But at least now it's not a choice. It's just something that happens.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
That's also like the kind of things that you have to. I mean, that helps just masking it and turning something that, yeah, I don't know why I would choose this with that, and just okay, it's like this.
And we had the rabbit hole and we had to make it stop somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I get it. Got to make hard decisions in game design.
but yeah, as we were telling before, there's the chance maybe this will come back, and we found a gold cave at the end of the rabbit hole, and we finally decided this was something that we actually wanted to do. So who knows?
Yeah. Cool. I like it. We got Elda. Hey, Elda. Which of our units will have the mobility to detect stealth units? All or special ones? Undercover will depend on technology. So I think this kind of goes back to what we talked about previously, which is any unit can walk into a stealth unit on accident.
If I may, I think
go for
the
it.
question goes on, I hope, on the detection side. If it doesn't, I will try to answer both.
I think the second part is definitely the detection. I'm not sure.
I think it's not mobility, but ability.
Ability.
So I will channel Noah, who is on the bottom floor right now. He actually is the one who made the whole rationale for numbers that which unit detect better. And actually, mobility and detection are linked for him. So basically, you will get very mobile units. So
Like
for
scouts
instance,
or scout riders?
No, scouts, no. But from like era 3 and onwards.
Oh, okay.
So when when spies arrive, also arrive units that are better at detecting spies.
So sorry,
So
which
knights-
which era do spies?
Era 3. At the
Okay, so
beginning.
before era 3, there are no spies.
There is no stealth. There are no spies.
You have Oh yeah, there's no stealth units before then, I guess.
Yeah. So it also kind of is introduced in era 3. And you unlock them at how is this deck called in English? Called to arms? No, where you unlock basically the pikemen and the swordsman, and then you also unlock the you unlock the spy. So the not the spy. This is confusing. They all have names in the data, and people who are modding know about those names, who are not the names that they have in the game.
Right.
So they will now be called saboteurs, are now called prowlers. They have different name because they don't sabot anymore, but they do prowl and ambush people. And then in the same technology, you also unlock, if you have the expansion pack, spies, which are called secret agents
Secret
in the data. And
agent.
this I'm so sorry for this naming situation, but once a thing is named, if you change the name of the data, it breaks all saves everywhere, and it's
If at any point
Yes.
you can hear a game designer using strange names instead of the actual ones you can see in the game, you can assume it's because of data shenanigans.
It's not a
Yeah.
new secret feature. It's just that we used to call this way, and I can't really change my memory of how it's called. Back to the question.
Yeah.
So faster units, which you can move more. So if you move them more, you can encounter or run into more stealth units. So if you have like 6 movement, for instance, will also be correlated with higher detection values. So you don't really have to always like be moving them as we were talking about the micro, because just having like units with high detection in territories with high detection will make that territory much harder, because we kind of in the fantasy we assume that a little horseman kind of goes faster and goes check out,
and they're
Yeah.
patrolling.
but you don't really see them, and they're still based at the point where you left your army basically.
Right. So the detection rating of a territory is, like you said earlier, is based off of the highest, the unit
Yes.
or district.
Yes, that's another mitigation that
Thing.
we did. So
So it's not additive, it's choosing the highest one.
right, so there are 3 sources. Armies, squadrons, actually 4. Squadrons,
What's the difference between an army and a squadron?
a squadron is
planes.
made of planes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes. Cities and stuff, like empire bonuses. So
Right.
satellites,
Narrative events.
basically. Narrative events, stuff that may boost your detection temporarily.
Satellites are only available in the modern era,
Yeah,
though, right?
and they can kind of cover the whole territory. But those 3 things. So if you have an army, and if you have several armies in the same territory, we will only pick the one with the highest detection.
The best army, the best
The best district, and
District.
the best squadron, basically.
if they exist.
Yeah, if they overlap, for instance, over the same. So why did we do this? So you know that there's like something that's kind of boring is if people were able to really build so much stuff that gives you detection that just a territory becomes impregnable. Like, okay, you just can't come here.
Right.
Sorry, there's no stealth here. I'm free of the mechanic, and we chose to do this way. We did like paint ourselves into a corner because it's something that's not instantly intuitive. So the intelligence view will help you with that actually. So it will highlight the best source for each of the detection sources, but it does help as to make a thing that's actually fun in a way where you build up your stuff. You don't feel you're obliged to really stack up everything. You can like sort of move them around. If you have a notice that something is being detected somewhere, you can have a like really high mobile army that you move there, and then you know that you're putting pressure on the hidden people there, because now their time to detection went from 4 turns to 2.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they won't be able to complete their mission before being found out, etc. So it's
be interesting to see how that work in the final era, because you can move stuff around pretty quick, especially if you have built up the infrastructure like airports and rail stations and stuff.
So it's kind of like everyone you going, okay, there's like reports of concealed activity in this territory. That's okay. Reports of concealed activity in that territory. Well, that's where my missile silos are.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good. And then you can try to scramble everyone to really protect that place.
Scramble the jets.
Literally scramble the jets.
Cool.
As I was going to, I'm going back to the thread. I have no watch. I have no idea if we're okay.
We're getting closer to the end of the stream
already. Okay, no, that's not true. So I was mentioning missile silos because this is something that I had in my head when we were designing the secret agents and the spy masters, actually in this case, because they also gain the ability to disrupt districts, and that's one of the things that was really like in the stuff, like cool James Bond movie things that you kind of act out in your head, is okay, wouldn't it be cool if there was a way, even though if it's hard, but you could like at the last minute go in and stop a nuclear launch from happening. And that is kind of like the disrupt district action. So it's basically like you turn it off.
You just turn off the yields.
Everything it does.
Anything it does.
For a bunch of like turns. If I think it's like in normal speed, again, I think it's 5. But then it becomes immune for like another 5 turns.
Okay.
But you can't like if it's really something that's really specific, you can go in and for that moment just turn out that district, make like it isn't there.
So could that be for like a strategic resource?
It can be,
like,
yes.
Like you're like, they're going to start building tanks.
Yes.
And so I'm going to go in and...
Well, I guess they won't.
Sabotage their aluminum factory or something.
So that will actually stop them from a few turns, but then they know that there will be like a bunch of turns where that can't happen anymore because they beefed up the security or something. And so that is one of like the toolkit, the things that we wanted to give in the toolkit to, as we were mentioning at the beginning of the stream, give ways to either like make situations better or worse, but depending on your point of view, without having to go, okay, I declare now war to you, let's just go, and all armies start mushing together. And maybe you had an agent waiting out for the opportunity, and then you go, then you swoop in at that precise moment, and the thing doesn't happen, or the thing happens because you stopped the thing that was going to not let it happen. But you know how it is.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. All right.
There are more, but we don't have time.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna take a look at what we have left to talk about and see if we can maybe highlight some things, because I would like to get to some of the QA questions. Thanks to everybody who did put questions in the forum thread from last week. If you do have more questions or things like that for the art or history stream, feel free to go in there. Humankind forum general, it's the top pinned one. So feel free to go put more questions in there. But yes, so we have the new affinity, diplomatic affinity.
Yes.
All the cultures in the expansion will be of that diplomatic affinity. One of the biggest questions is, will you add more diplomatic cultures in the future? We did answer this last week, so I'll just answer it again. No. These cultures will be the only diplomatic cultures, and the main reason for that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that we don't want to limit people that don't have the expansion.
Exactly.
We can't have something that is requiring people to pay for something if we're going to include it in free things. Yes. So it's kind of its own little package. It is what it is. It'd be really cool to have other cultures, and I think people have said, oh, well, these cultures were very influential and very diplomatic. Just keep in mind that there are constraints with making games, and this is one of them. So, anything else you want to say about the diplomatic affinity?
Any of their units can gather leverage,
All of their units.
which is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Yes. So you don't have to make specific units, although they won't share the same bonuses as other things like envoys or spies or whatever. But
There is also a bunch of stuff I want to say about, but let's just continue. And
okay.
let's hope people ask questions about it, so that way we have to answer them.
We have to, exactly.
And-
There are really good questions coming up, so.
It was just like, if there are questions we couldn't answer, there's still the forums.
Yeah, definitely. If there are any questions that we don't get to, take it to the forums. We'll be there. All right, new cultures. I think if you want to know about the new cultures, we can refer to the social posts that are going out. We have culture cards that are going out. And of course, once the expansion comes out, I'm sure there will be many a YouTube video made on the new cultures, the specifics of their emblematic units and districts, and legacy traits. We talked a little bit about the inter-empire events already. Anything else we want to mention on that?
No, I mean, if we're short on time.
Yeah, I'd like to get to the Congress of Humankind,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, lots of impact on modding. It affects everybody. Cool. I think we did a pretty good job of talking about that before. So, all right, Congress of Humankind. This is a important feature of the expansion, and it's going to affect a lot about how crises are handled. So let's talk about when we can unlock the Congress of Humankind. What are the criteria that's required? Because it's not something that's just automatically in the game.
No, you need to be in the early modern era first.
Okay.
You need to have met everyone else.
And you need to
have an
build
embassy.
it.
Yes. No, you need to have an embassy. Completed embassy.
You can build it, and it will be a cultural wonder, right?
It is not quite as straightforward. You can found
Okay.
it if you.
It's good we're
if you
talking
have-
about this
Right.
then.
If you have gathered these requirements, you can found it, and it may at the beginning it's just like a bunch of old like king dudes and dudes sitting in a room talking about the world, basically. And then in the modern era, you will unlock actually headquarters, which is the wonder that we're adding, that you can build you can claim and build on your territory, which will give you bonuses, permanent bonuses to how much people listen to you, basically.
It's
in the
not
content.
everyone gathered in a dark room. It's fancy new
Right,
building
new building
that
made by an
you
architect.
built. So it's your home.
We really wanted to. I mean, the first thing that this maybe seem odd. I imagine there's a silent question. Why didn't we go like with the UN, basically?
Okay.
And this is actually because we are not as nice as the UN in the game. The UN is actually a really nice organization that really works for the good of the world. We didn't go that bad.
Okay.
We wanted to represent a global community that's based around ideology, but we didn't want to say, and this is the good ideology. So this kind of links back to the intention that we had to not like tell you, okay, this is the right way to play, and this is this is the paragon, and this is the renegade.
I think some people get the wrong idea about humankind, where they think, oh, it's so woke, and oh, you can be vegetarian, and maybe some people were like, how do you play this game without killing animals? I don't know. I think everybody has a different idea, right?
Yes.
But I think at the core of humankind is you get to choose which side you want to be on.
That is our intentions, yes. And so there are three main components that you are seeing maybe now on stream. But they are, two of them are linked to the only feature that we could find that kind of also allowed us to bring together the independent peoples and all the empires participating whether they like it or not, which is ideology. So what you're seeing here, the first thing that you're seeing here is we can propose, periodically you can propose a vote on a civic, a given civic, and everyone kind of votes on one side of the other. And what you get is the preview of which side the ideology of the empire, this civic changes, and if everyone depending on which side wins, everybody gets like if you want this, it's free. You can have it.
Prompts you.
Right. If you don't want it, that means going against the wishes of all the global community. You have to pay. You have to pay influence in this case. And this is something that will start to get strained at one point. So you may not be able to say no right then, but then you can go back and just cancel it. But that also costs influence. And so that will shift your ideological axis and the one of everyone else in the world to one side or the other. The second component of this, and why are you doing this basically, the first one is maybe to mess with the others, like, okay, they rely on this to have the +1 combat strength, I will try to make people vote the other way, is in connection to doctrines. So doctrines is like, what if everyone else in the world thought the same on one thing? What would happen in that regard? So what if everyone, or all the countries in the world, were agreeing on whether, I don't know, it's better to be...
slavery is a...
No, not like as specific. It's like, whether are we more like... is it okay to be more authoritarian or libertarian?
Oh, okay, you mean on that axis.
So for the specific civics, they're actually okay, but people can still say no. They're not really living it, basically. It changes, they go back and forth. So ideologies actually are much, they kind of change slower of the game. And there are many ways of changing them. So the first one is to civics. You can also actually influence culturally other people, which will also change their civics. They will get the osmosis effect. You can also, one thing that we didn't mention about agents, you will be able to grab your little agent and send them to a city and mess with their politics to try to trigger a civics osmosis for them to look like you. And so all this, all the ideology of all the different empires will kind of shift over the course of the game, and every I don't know, n turns depending on your speed, a new doctrine effect may be unlocked. And these are if you say kind of in the middle, nothing happens. It's like business as usual. If you start leaning to one of the sides, everyone gets the same effect, and everyone gets the same effect might be what I was saying at the beginning, maybe something that's, okay, I don't really care. And someone else goes, what? More gold? This is interesting, this is super, I want money, give me money. And then if you get to the extremes, if you get to manage to get everyone to, maybe if you're really skilled, to herd them to one of the extremes that you agree with, maybe, then you will unlock stuff that's almost utopian or dystopian. I'm talking really strong effects. That if you look at them and if you imagine that we give them to one culture, you say, no, this is game breaking. This is broken. But we went even further. We give them to everyone at once. But they can be also reversed. So if the ideology changes back, if you go, no, that's too extreme, let's just calm down, then everyone loses that effect. So if you're relying on it, then you don't have it anymore. Some examples.
Stability?
Yes. If you go hard on order and you go, no, we will put cameras in every bathroom and we will read your email and, oh, that sounds familiar. Then, hey, we made the video guy laugh.
Our producer, Etienne, he's over here.
If you do that, actually the extreme effect that you may unlock, if you manage to get everyone to agree with you, is your cities would not go beyond, your city would never be unstable.
Right.
They will just be there, oh, this sucks, yes, we can't complain, no.
Too bad you got Big Brother watching over you.
And you have the camera going, so this is all in my imagination.
Everything is fine.
There are no actual graphics to represent this, but there is an effect that will apply in all cities on the world, meaning that they can't go unstable. On the other side of the equation, so if everyone agrees, let's have total freedom,
libertarian,
etc. Everyone do what you want, no checks and balances.
Anarchy.
Yeah, it's kind of anarcho-capitalism. You get huge bonuses for cities that are settled. So this is kind of what I was saying. If you have stability problems,
settled is the status for a high stability.
Yes, for really high stability.
Very high.
Just for anybody.
If you are having stability problems because you are in a war, you build too many units, you build too fast, and your cities are kind of struggling. Well, you could be tempted by going, hey, I don't care about that effect that happens when you have high stability. I want the thing that prevents you from going into low stability. and maybe other people won't care, but they will feel that I want to go that way. So we kind of hope that this will be like the scenario of a tug of war based around ideology. So we hope that that's something that's also fun and engaging to play as. Like I will try to influence you to think more like my way. And the last ingredient here is independent peoples who also have an ideology and who, with the new treaties, you can start influencing them and getting them to agree with you. You know, they're always like two extremes and then the rest they don't care. Well, you can start influencing them and then they will start to look like you a little bit. So you will have like more weight. They will also be counted on doctrines and you have more weight to try to move stuff.
So is this a concrete, you know, thing that happens once you've made them a, you know, puppet state, that they will just vote whatever you vote?
They actually,
or is this just an independent?
No,
before.
It's before. They exist in the world, so they are able to participate and to.
And you'll see them on the list of nations in the world. Okay.
They not on the one that's listed there. They can't vote.
Yeah.
In that regard, they do depend on you, but they are present on the ideological axis.
Okay.
So they kind of weigh on one side of the other. The last thing that you have that's not related to both of those things is the crisis that you were mentioning. Maybe Isabel.
Well, remember when you said Sergio wanted to attack
I was
you?
just thinking about Sergio attacking me.
Well,
Waking up at night, Sergio.
The Spanish Inquisition is coming.
let's say you can either keeping the things between you and him and getting attacked and destroyed, etc. Or you can say, oh, okay, you're attacking me. Well, let me talk about this to the whole rest of the world, to the Congress of Humankind. And they will be the one to say, okay, who is right? Is it you? Is it him? There will be a vote. And whoever is right on the eyes of the international community will get their option answered immediately.
So if I demand reparations, let's say I'm like, hey, pay me money because you attacked me, or give me back my territory because you stole it.
And then you push that to everyone else to decide. They actually can vote for you. And if they do that, it's not the end of the world for Sergio. He can still be an a-hole if you want. So he imagine he also had demands, okay? So he was like, hey, you owe me something.
Right.
And so you get in the list, you get, okay, this side had this problem, these demands.
It'll have all the grievances laid out on either side.
The actual demands, not grievances, are laid out from both sides. So in this case, I see this video, I go, yeah, let's just go with Lucy because I don't want a war, and she seems like she's ready for it, basically. But in your case, maybe I am siding with Sergio as well. So I vote with him. And in case of, if you win, for instance, the demands of Sergio will be lost because we don't really approve with that. I mean, the entire world goes, no, you don't really think that.
There's no argument here.
But he gets to make the call. Okay, do you want to accept, or do you still want to go to war? So it's not a get out of war free card, but it is a way, at least for them. I mean, if he makes the war, he will not have the demands that he had for
which
it
would
before.
mean that he's not getting war support.
It's a way of simulating the fact that you're not being recognized in your legitimacy by others, and to claim that territory as a war spoil. Maybe you can add him, so it will cost you more war score, maybe.
Right.
But you can still and this is what I was mentioning as well. We don't prevent you from declaring war or for doing war with the guy that you really want to do war, and he went oh, time out, let's just ask everyone, and it takes 3 turns, and maybe you can use those turns to prepare your armies and stuff because you know what's going to happen.
Sometimes 3 turns is all you need.
And if the vote goes well for you, you can also have this kind of advantage that goes, okay, now if you win the war, you won't have your demands fulfilled automatically. You'll have to work for them. On the other side, he may choose to like take the L and go, okay, you know what? Let's go. Because if he declares war against the wishes of everyone, that also actually is kind of like we kind of created a new type of war, which is called unsanctioned, I think.
Yeah.
And so the community went, no, I didn't want a war now. The trade, the trade routes, what's happening now? And so you declaring an unsanctioned war on someone will give leverage to everyone else, basically, and a grievance.
Oh, and going back to leverage, when I said at some point you wanted to keep it, to hoard it, it's because it's not one vote per player.
Yeah.
It's
I forgot about
the strength of your vote is
Your
the
total
sum
leverage.
of your leverage.
That's why in that little clip, Lucy's got all the leverage and nobody has anything.
Yeah.
Seems like a very specific situation. Lucy's been busy.
That hardly happens actually.
No,
in
I know.
actual gameplay, but
I just think it's funny.
It is. We also wanted to create this tension, especially when the Congress of Humankind appears, where you go, okay, collecting leverage now is like kind of a two-edged sword, basically, because I can use it against you and like tell me where your stealth units are and take your units out of my territory, etc. But if I spend that, I won't have it because I will have like spent the weight I had.
Your bargaining chips have been played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the international crises screen where you're like, oh, I have 92 leverage. When you sway the decision by that amount of leverage, do you pay all of your leverage, or is it just I get to keep that leverage, but that's my sway currently?
Yeah.
And so it's a running total that whenever there is a decision, that's your power.
Yeah, you can
power level.
There's a little button that's called bribe that you can press if you have leverage against someone to use them to give you temporarily more voting weight.
Right.
So you spend some like in the concrete term. So in the next vote you will be lower, but for that vote, because it's really important for you, you can outspend yourself to inflate your leverage, your sway.
Your
sorry.
influence.
That's the fixed leverage, actually.
That was the sixth leverage actually. So you spend leverage here now to get the bigger number now, knowing that later you won't have as much as a big number. So maybe
Right.
like this vote, I'm voting on my own crisis. Everyone, help me! I'm pulling all the favors.
Help me, save
Yes.
me against Sergio. He's trying to take my lands. Oh goodness, cool. I'm excited for the Congress of Humankind. I think that's going to be a very interesting tool, and I do think that what you've just explained, hopefully should give some peace to some people that are worried about their warmongering ways not being valid anymore.
So you want us to bring peace to people who want war? Is it?
Yeah, more like peace of mind, not necessarily actual peace. But yeah, no, I mean, I think with some limited information, people maybe running wild with speculations and things like that. So I think it's good that we're actually getting more concrete.
Well, and it is something that's more kind of related to what like similar implementations of this idea in other games. That it's normal that you try to extrapolate from what you already know. We also did that because we didn't want to fall in the same traps as that. Meaning there are two main traps. The one I explained that I don't want to be forced to not do something or to be prevented from actually doing something that I want to do. It's okay if there's a higher cost, basically. And the second one is I personally disliked and I used my power. I abused my power basically to make it so that your voting power is not related to any economic factors of your empire. So it's only related to how much you care about diplomacy, actually. So if you do the work of taking envoys, finding the intel, going there, grabbing it and maintaining it, then you will be diplomatically important. If you just decide to ignore it, nobody will care about what you have, even though you have like half the world is yours, because you don't engage in the conversation. And you will start like getting stuff done to you. You won't like. Maybe you start paying more attention to diplomacy.
Right. Cool. I think so. We're at the end of the stream, so unfortunately we don't have any more time. There were a bunch of really good questions that we had on Games Together that I would love to answer, but maybe we can get maybe 2 or 3 of them. Can we get a couple of them?
Let's go.
We'll shotgun as fast as we can. But if we don't get to any of them here, maybe we could have a little write-up and we can add it on to the forum so we have an answer. We'll get an answer for every single question and we'll add it onto Games Together. But let's see this first one. What's the most exciting part of the new expansion you can't wait to see in the hands of the players? What are they going to use the craziest?
I think agents will be the...
Agents.
Yeah, the thing I expect to see, if you actually manage to build my fantasy scenario of stopping a nuclear strike.
All right, we want to see a nuclear strike stopped by a spy. I like it. James Bond moment. All right, what's the next one? You're good. This is we're testing the limits of how fast we can get questions up on the screen. We'll read chat here for a little bit.
I can't wait, honestly, to use my envoys and just say, no, I swear, I can be here. I can be here.
I can be here.
Any changes to personas to integrate with diplomacy, new persona responses, such as the voice lines and things like that? Can you choose not to participate in the World Congress? So Thais had a lot of different questions. I tried to summarize them here.
For the third one, you can choose not to vote.
Yeah, we have gone over that a little bit. You can essentially choose to just not participate.
Just let it be and see what happens, basically.
Okay. As far as the persona changes, this was an interesting one that I had wanted to ask, since, like we talked about, we don't want to make something required from having to purchase an expansion. But, you know, having more unique things with the personas to integrate into the diplomacy. Is there anything like that?
So the persona traits and perks, etc., especially what relates to their personality, does govern how likely they'll be to like you, vote with you, do stuff with you with the embassy, actually build an embassy or not.
So there haven't been new persona elements created, but new mechanics and things have been integrated into the current.
We felt we kind of covered like a big range of stuff that they will be like kind of forced to add new personalities there.
Okay.
But we did integrate it with it, and there are like new back and forth responses when you use embassy treaties or do actions. So they will also react to that in the diplomacy screen.
Cool. I like it. All right. Next question. Were these extended diplomatic mechanics intended and planned from the beginning as an expansion, or did you use the community's feedbacks to build it up?
Both.
I believe we answered that.
I think we actually answered that question
If you
perfectly.
scroll back to the beginning, we did answer that. The reason is both. Yes.
Both. Both is good. For the El Dorado quote. I was like, you chuckled. You better have got that. Okay, good stuff. I love El Dorado. It's my favorite not a Disney movie, you know what I mean? Like, I always thought it was a Disney movie when I was a kid, but...
will the new features allow for power blocks of nations like NATO?
Yes.
Okay, that's actually some of the... Yeah, that was one of the things that we actually wanted to do explicitly in the game. So we wanted to be able to make your block. That was another of the things that had like rabbit holes within rabbit holes. So what if you're part of this and you want to go there and you don't want to be friends with them? And it kind of, when you added that into the mix, it kind of actually removed options. So we decided for this, for not having that. But we hope that the ideology aspect of the doctrines kind of shows kind of like which are the groups of people who kind of think alike.
Right.
And we hope that you can use the alliances and the stealth to kind of solidify these blocks, at least not in name, but in form, at least.
Yeah.
So you share stealth with each other, and that should work. But then we couldn't really stretch up to that, basically.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've talked to some people from the community about certain things that they're like, I wish you could just do this in the game. And some other people in the community have come back with the responses of like, well, you can. You just have to decide to like, well, like if you're playing with your friends or something like that, you just have to have everybody agree, hey, we're going to play this way with a certain rule set. Yeah. And I think that is an interesting, you know, option as gamers.
It doesn't work with AIs, so I guess that's why they asked for it. But sometimes, yes, the like having these kind of like big stuff on top of the existing stuff in terms of blocks. In this case, it's kind of a thing where it adds more complication, and in that case we would be going into some sort of like, not micro, but having like okay, now it's time to vote, now it's your time to decide, and that would slow down even more, I think, the late game with the bunch of stuff that you need to decide and agree on and stuff. So yeah, it was a bridge too far at this point.
All right, there you have it. Do we have more questions? 2 more questions. All right, let's go. Akila asks, will there be integrations with the expansion and existing mechanics such as pollution, holding the highest polluters accountable for their polluting?
Yeah. So, if there is still the grievance of being a high polluter, and that grievance may become a international crisis, handyman. However, I won't hide the fact that pollution is kind of like stealth, as it was before the rework, so we didn't want to pile up much stuff on top of that before we got it to a place where we feel like it's actually fun to play with.
Yeah, because pollution is something that is on the list of things to take a look at.
Yes.
And see what can be done.
An intense look at.
In the future, as we talked about last stream, there are other things that will be coming before that, so, you know, keep that in mind. Other things like naval gameplay and religion and things may be coming before a pollution rework. And the last question from Kaku Jahak. Will the expansion be supported with patches after launch, or will only the base game continue to receive patches?
So we are really not a very smart company with this, because we will support the expansion with patches. I know that we have, as we have done for the DLCs as well. So there are sometimes there are fixes on the DLCs on a further patch because we missed a spot basically. We will not like be adding new content to the expansion pack, however, but we will be maintaining the systems from the expansion pack for the foreseeable future while Humankind exists basically. So if we down the line we add new content or stuff that doesn't really interact well with the content in the expansion pack, or is kind of missing and we feel it should be there, we will actually be fixing that, because we are not very smart.
It's a lot of work.
We decide, hey, what if we worked even more?
What if we worked harder? Yeah, no, I think this is a very important question. People that are spending $20, euros, whatever it is, on new content for a game want to know that if there are things that need to be fixed, patched, whatever, that is something that we will work on. That is something that you may receive an update in the future that would affect the expansion. Or if things change in the base game that interact with the expansion, then things will mesh, and we'll keep it looking good and shiny for you. But anyways, that's all the questions that we have. Okay, well, it is time to go. Thank you both so much for being here in the stream. It's been a fantastic time. Chat, like I said, if you have any more questions, please put more stuff in games together. Next week on Thursday at 4 p.m., same time as today, we will be back here for the art design stream. So we'll be talking with some of our artists, and we recently had a conversation with them. There's going to be some very cool things that we're going to be talking about, like how the district tiles are made and all this.
That's awesome.
Like, it's pretty mind-blowing, so definitely show up next week. We'll also be live tomorrow, again, with our normal stream schedule. So these are streams that are in addition to the streams that we normally do. So this is just extra content for you all to watch. But yeah, thank you very much for hanging out with us. Thank you all for the support. We love you. Take care. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will catch you all very soon. Have a fantastic one. We'll catch you.
Bye bye. Sorry, my throat tried to kill me.
No, you're fine.